Thanks for joining us on To The Point. I'm Becca Habiger, in for Alex, who's out representing ABC 10 at the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce Celebration of Excellence Gala, emceed by our own Chris Thomas, which we'll get to later. But first, we want to bring you our final part of our Megaflood series. Climate change has doubled the risk of devastating floods in California. Our meteorologists have spent months asking our state lead researchers, what is a megaflood? What damage could it do? And are we ready as a state? Tonight, Carly Gomez closes our series with a look at the importance of flood insurance and what you need to know to stay protected if the worst case scenario comes true.
All of our tools were submerged underwater.
It looks like a bomb went off there.
Imagine the biggest storm you've ever been through.
He had to chainsaw his way out his front door.
Cold, hard rain has local creeks and rivers running high.
All this came underneath the doors.
What if the rain didn't stop?
A levee breaks. Now your neighborhood is taking on water.
In Sacramento region alone, there's over 514,000 people that are protected by these levees.
Studies suggest that Sacramento is actually one of the top 10 in the nation most at risk for flooding due to rivers.
The most intense atmospheric river storms are likely to become significantly more intense.
And certainly the spillway incident was one of those instances where we did not have time.
So, are we prepared? This is Megaflood.
One of the things that we say at FEMA is that all droughts are followed by floods.
Frank Manzel with FEMA Public Affairs says they prepare for catastrophic events like floods and try to get the word out to residents on how to prepare. Even with warnings, residents find themselves left wondering what to do.
I don't know how many disasters I've been at where people had no idea what insurance policies they had, bank account numbers, all that stuff that you take for granted as having, you will likely have it destroyed in a disaster.
So this begs the question, are we really prepared? Manzel works closely with experts with the National Flood Insurance Program. He says many people think they're covered with home insurance and find out the hard way.
Flooding can happen anywhere it rains. As I said, you can get street flooding. Levees are constantly under pressure. There's always water flowing past them, eroding at the base of the levee, and levees do overtop. And it's a nice system, but it's not foolproof, and it doesn't offer 100% protection.
According to FEMA, over 90% of flood insurance policies are covered by the NFIP. You can buy flood insurance through your current insurance company, who participates in a Write Your Own policy. The NFIP allows your insurance company to write and service government flood insurance using their own brand name. Premiums are assessed through flood maps.
After a community gets its flood maps, it also comes with a set of building standards for that community. And we assume that you, as a homeowner building after the flood maps are out, are going to build to that new standard. You paid what were called actuarial rates. Those are rates that really reflect the risk.
The National Flood Insurance Program has paid $72 billion in claims to about 2 million policyholders. That's according to a statement by David Marstad, Senior Executive of the National Flood Insurance Program, to the Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs last year.
The largest caveat is that FEMA will not duplicate benefits. So if my home is damaged significantly from a flood, for instance, FEMA will pay you for everything your flood insurance doesn't cover, up to a total of about $35,000 to $40,000.
Private flood insurance is beginning to gain ground in sales as more tools and forecast for flood zones becomes available. Often, private insurance can cost a bit more, but can cover higher value homes.
Private flood insurance, they're usually higher, but not necessarily so. You can shop around and compare prices. You can also use private insurance to augment your national flood insurance program. So if you thought your structure was worth more than $250,000, you may want to look at a private insurer to cover the balance.
The biggest misconception about flood insurance in California is that you don't need it.
Sacramento is at the confluence of two rivers. Some studies suggest that Sacramento is actually one of the top 10 in the nation most at risk for flooding due to rivers.
Flood maps around Sacramento metro area shows the regions near rivers, lakes, dams, levees, and canals are definitely at risk. Take Natomas, Pocket, and South Sacramento, surrounded by major water sources, but it doesn't mean outlying areas are safe.
40% of our flood claims that we pay are for structures that are not in a flood zone.
John Kane with the nonprofit River Partners continues to advocate for public education when it comes to our water channels.
Make sure you get flood insurance, even if you're protected by a levee, because that levee could fail. And having a community, not just a few homeowners, but the whole community of people to have flood insurance really helps the community build back from floods.
Those emergency to-go bags constantly mentioned in earthquake scenarios can also be used in floods.
Having a kit that's fully inclusive of everything that they may need, including personal medications, pet supplies, things like that, that can accommodate everybody within their family.
Levees and drainage canals like this one can be inundated with water in a mega flood. You and your family will need to be ready to evacuate in a moment's notice. There's also some extra things you may need for that emergency kit. That includes non-perishable food for at least 3 days, including water. You're also going to need maybe a first aid kit for yourself, but also some important factors that add onto this list, aside from those emergency kits you already have for earthquake help, is possibly a whistle in case of an emergency. You also want to waterproof some of those documents in plastic bags or containers. Another extra step, making sure you have extra clothing from areas that are inundated with water. You want to have those extra blankets, clothing, anything protective to wear. And another one on that list includes some cash on hand in case of emergency situations with power outages.
Apply to the megastorm as much as it would apply to an earthquake or a wildfire. Have an escape plan and a place to meet.
Now it's a race against time for our infrastructure to meet the rate of climate change due to our warming planet. Being prepared is our best chance at protecting our communities.
And our Carly Gomez joins us now. Carly, thank you for this story. You know, flood insurance, that's going to come at a price. How much are we talking?
Yeah, it really varies. So in California, the National Flood Insurance Program averages Californian homes at around $850 a month, but that's the average. That's about $70 a month. But when you think of some of the higher end places around the Bay Area, even San Rafael is looking at about $1,800 a month, but areas like Elk Grove, it's about $450 a month. So it varies depending on your flood map, flood zone areas. So that's really the biggest issue here, is where do you lie in according to levees, lakes, and rivers.
And that's per month or per year?
That is for the year.
Okay.
So if it's averaging $850, that's $70 a month.
Okay. Okay. Great. Thanks. Now I know, having covered stories in the the foothills, a lot of folks find that their fire insurance gets dropped suddenly, and that can get very expensive. Is there something similar with flood insurance?
Right. So the flood insurance program has been around much longer than fire situations that we've been in. Think about hurricanes that happen, things on the East Coast where they're dealing with nonstop hurricane season. That flood insurance program has been established. Fire, not so much. But the flood insurance program does have its cap and its limits. So you can get only about $250,000 for your building property and only about $100,000 for your personal property. So you're looking at $350,000. Think about how much the homes here cost.
Yeah, I feel like $250,000 is not going to even scratch the surface on a lot of California homes.
Right. And so private insurance is an option, and that's something that people could consider kind of picking up the remainder of the tab.
Sure. Final quick question here for you. What questions should homeowners be asking when they're looking at flood insurance?
Yeah, this is an ever-evolving situation. Technology's been coming out, kind of improving the flood map zone, so kind of getting more into the micro areas that could see it more or worse or better. So it's really pinpointing, am I in that flood zone area? How much of risk am I taking being in this area, and can I cover the amount that would be needed?
A lot for homeowners to think about. Important information. Thank you so much, Carly. And you can catch all 4 parts of our Megaflood series on abc10.com/megaflood. A CHP commander found dead and a man on life support after an arrest. We're following up on some of the big stories after the break. We're continuing to follow the case of Julie Harding, the Yuba Sutter CHP commander who was found dead in Tennessee last weekend. Back in September, Julie's estranged husband, Michael Harding, was found dead a few hours away in Kentucky. A week ago, a man named Thomas O'Donnell was arrested at Sacramento International Airport, charged with the murder of Michael Harding. Here's what we know today. Our Devin Truby went to the Sacramento County Jail for a jailhouse interview with O'Donnell. She requested that, but he is not speaking to anyone. O'Donnell is awaiting extradition to Cumberland County, Kentucky. No word on when that will happen. The Cumberland County Court says Kentucky State Police will handle O'Donnell's transfer, but that's subject to change. We're also working to learn why Julie Harding was on leave from CHP and in Tennessee when she died last week. The Appeal Democrat, that's the newspaper that first broke this story, reports that she was on leave due to injury, but ABC 10 has yet to independently confirm that. We're continuing to follow the story of the man who was put on life support after Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies arrested him last week. I spoke with Sharano Stingley's daughter today, who says doctors tell the family Stingley likely won't wake up. His daughter says she's holding on to hope that he will, but she's preparing for the worst. Stingley's family says deputies could have de-escalated the interaction before it led to Stingley becoming unconscious. Deputies were responding to a 911 call about a possible catalytic converter theft. Stingley's daughter, who lives down the block from where the arrest happened, says her dad was having a mental health crisis at the time and was frantically trying to find her home and car where he would sometimes seek refuge. She says her dad got confused about which home he was at and that another neighbor's security camera video supports that, showing him disoriented and talking to himself. We've seen that video and brought that to you as well in previous reporting. Now, if you'd like to review the body camera video for yourself, we have it up on abc10.com/tothepoint, along with a link to support Stingley's family. There is a new sheriff in town, and you'll meet him one-on-one. Only on ABC 10, we have our exclusive interview with Sacramento's new sheriff when we come back. 'Tis the season. It's the most wonderful time of the year. Most of us think holiday season when we hear those, but one Sacramento man thinks citrus season. And right now, he's on a mission to save as much excess citrus fruit as possible, and you can help.
So today we're out harvesting some oranges off of a community member's tree in South Sacramento, and these oranges are going to get shared with community members all over the county. Probably go to Wellspring Women's Center and River City Food Bank.
Matthew Ampersand is the founder of Sacramento's Find Out Farms, which he describes as inquiry-driven urban agriculture.
Anybody who has a thriving fruit tree has that experience of having too much fruit for their household, and simultaneously there's hundreds of thousands of people who are food insecure in Sacramento County. And a lot of those folks would really appreciate some nice, fresh, healthy food.
He started the Community Fruit Program last year, where people in the Sacramento area essentially donate the fruit hanging on their fruit tree, and Ampersand plus volunteers come out to harvest it and bring the fruit to people in need.
I think anybody who lives in the area has walked down the street and seen fruit falling from a tree and wondering, why is all that fruit going to waste? I wish they could do something. And I also wished I could do something, and I realized I could, so I did.
Last year, the program harvested a little over 10,000 pounds of fruit that would otherwise go to waste. This year,
2022, we've diverted nearly 17,000 pounds of fruit. Our goal is to do 20,000 before the end of the year, so we're seeing if we can get there. It's cutting it pretty close. But I think we might be able to. And then in 2023, our goal is to do even more than this year.
Chelsea Renicky volunteers with the Community Fruit Program.
I have gone and brought a friend with me, so it was just a fun day, fun couple hours. It's not too difficult, and if you aren't sure about doing something, maybe just don't do it. Like going up too high or something like that.
And now's the time to volunteer, Ampersand says.
Oh, it's the most wonderful time of the year. It's citrus season. This is really when hundreds and thousands of pounds of citrus is ripe over Sacramento County.
Okay, so in today's editorial meeting, our executive producer Rachel Jacobs asked, what about frost? Is that threatening Ampersand's harvest? So I asked him. He said a frost or even a light freeze, the citrus fruit will probably be okay. But a hard freeze, he says, 28 degrees or colder overnight, and he gets worried. He says Sacramento could see that over the weekend. He says frost blankets or even those old school incandescent Christmas lights that give off heat, putting those in the tree can help save the fruit. Now, if you want more information on how you can volunteer with the Community Fruit Program, we have that at abc10.com/tothepoint. He's making history as the first black sheriff in Sacramento County and only the second in the state of California. Our Chris Thomas sits down for a conversation with the new sheriff, Jim Cooper, about his plans for Sacramento County.
So, Sheriff, here we are at the beautiful Cordova High School. You played football here at this high school. We all think back on when we were in high school and we were thinking about what do we want to be when we grow up. How is it here to be here as the first black sheriff?
Only the second black sheriff ever in the history of California, a state of 40 million people. I realize what it is, what it means to people, a lot of folks out there that look like me, but I'm a sheriff for everyone, a sheriff for all. And it's important to me. I take my job seriously.
And you've got, what, 4 girls of your own?
Yes.
Is Sacramento County a safe place for those girls?
It is safe. I'm a girl dad. I would die for my girls. So it's exciting times. It's tough times. So I had 4 years left in the legislature, and my colleagues told me, "You are crazy for going back to law enforcement because your job is much easier. You're one of 120. You blend in here, but being in law enforcement, you're in the fire." And there's some truth to that. But my kids live here, my grandson lives here. I want to make sure Sacramento continues to be one of the best places to live and raise a family.
Can you point to maybe say 1 or 2 or 3 things that you plan to do as soon as you get in that you know you gotta do?
I'll really address the homeless issue and talk about it. Like I said, it's not a crime to be homeless, but you have to have accountability there also. And up till now, that hasn't been there.
So does that mean we need to do more sweeps, things of that nature?
I don't want to say sweeps. We want to help people that want to help themselves. And if you don't want to help yourself, we're going to figure out something else. So that's really what it involves, and working with those agencies. The American River Bike Trail is right behind us, the Parkway. As a kid, I played there all summer. You can't do that now. And we want to change that back and take it back and make sure it's safe for everyone. And for our most gravely mentally disabled, we got to talk conservatorship. No one in California has talked conservatorship. The governor implemented care court, that's a step, but we need to do a lot more. And the gun violence, I mean, a lot of these guys are prohibited from possessing or owning firearms, yet they carry them around because they know nothing's going to happen to them. They know how the law is. If you get caught with a gun, you're going to get released. And for these people that are the most violent, we need to punish them. Some folks, I'm all for rehabilitation, and you can rehabilitate some folks. Some folks just don't care.
Do you think there's room for improvement when it comes to transparency, especially within the sheriff's office?
Well, I think there's always room, and really just to sit down and have a conversation with people, because we're not always going to agree, but we can agree to disagree, but have a friendly conversation, talk about issues. So I think getting out there and having those relationships before something happens.
I guess when you think about things like body cameras, they've only been in the department for what, like 2 years now?
Yes.
and so, you know, people just feel like maybe we were a little late to the game in that way. But at least we're there, huh?
We relate to the game 100%, and it's much needed. And the bottom line, it protects the community, it protects the officers. So they're a good tool. It's not the end all, the be all. It's not the panacea, but it's a very effective tool.
Speaking of those men and women, what message would you have for those men and women in uniform now who serve this community every day?
You do a great job. The vast majority of the public supports you. I've seen the polls, I've talked to individuals, you don't hear it. And just keep doing what you're doing, keep your head up, and know that you're doing the right thing and you're protecting the public.
And we want to give a special thank you to Cordova High School for hosting our exclusive conversation. ABC 10's coverage continues tomorrow at Sheriff Cooper's public swearing-in ceremony. Now let's take a look at the Gilmore backyard. We've got your current temperatures here. Make sure you're bundling up tonight if you're heading out, maybe going to look at the Fab 40s, the Christmas lights there. And then looking at your 10-day forecast here. Remember, if you have some of those delicate plants, you're going to want to cover them overnight. We'll be back after the break. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Alex isn't necessarily off tonight because she's busy representing ABC 10 at the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce's annual Board Installation and Business Awards ceremony hosted by ABC 10's own Chris Thomas. And here you'll see a cameo from our Monica Coleman as well. The chamber is highlighting the new board of directors and raising money for the Young Leadership Collaborative. That's a program focused on preparing young adults for entrepreneurship. The program awards scholarships and is on its 14th year now. The event also has 3 award categories to honor the Nonprofit of the Year, Small Business of the Year, and Champion of the Year. And a reminder, there's still a few days left to donate to ABC 10's Stand Against Hunger campaign. It runs through this Sunday. Just text the word hunger to 916-321-3310 and we'll send you everything you need to know. We are upwards of $230,000. That's more than 2 million meals paid for by your generosity. So thank you so much. You know, we want to know what's going on in your neck of the woods. I've got Instagram and Facebook. Becca reports. You can just shoot the team an email. We'd love to hear from you. Jeopardy's up next.
Hey, it's Alex. Just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I really love hearing from everyone, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. Reach out to me on Facebook at AlexBellTV, or you can email me at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send me a text message at 916-321-3310.